And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have two of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the three-eyed master of dad jokes, good brother Joe.
Hello, everyone.
And the man who lost his name but gained a letter, good brother A.
I am still somehow alive.
Is that what the A is for?
Yes.
But now, Sizer will not be here this week. He is currently at a concert with his father as a belated Father's Day present. Um,
That's nice.
I've mentioned that Sunday on Father's Day, I ended up engaging in a long-standing tradition, trolling Irish pubs until we get thrown out over a worst Irish tenor contest where we're so bad that we're unbearable for everyone else.
I mean, that just sounds like a normal weekend for me.
Mhm. That is a tradition that has gone back generations of not necessarily trolling Irish pubs, but trolling bars. Period. Uh, but the last time that we delved into Armored Core 6 was mostly on the gear and on the garage, where the action economy, I think, really manifests itself. We had a bit of it when we covered combat and covered the mechanics, but here it really shows. Uh, Along with some of the more ridiculous entries, especially any entry that does coral damage.
It is one of those end game weapons.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is why it was a smart move to build equipment more on unit level rather than money. That's not just, in fact, money more or less is experience in this. Because if it's the case of, oh, your mech is as powerful as you can afford, that's tricky to balance. That's why trying to approach a game that has a less linear characterization setup and trying to make a balanced encounter in those is all but impossible.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be hard to make a balanced encounter in something like, say, World of Darkness. Putting aside that combat isn't usually first and foremost in World of Darkness, but there are so many different variations on how one can build a character. Uh, it's the same reason I don't build a balanced encounter guideline in Legend Edition, because there's too many variables. It's in something where you have very linear advancement, you can build around that to build a balanced encounter. But if you don't if things are a lot more spread out, it's hard to say what the overall effectiveness of an individual character would be. And I would say Armored Core is no exception to this, which is why it's going to be interesting how the game handles enemies, though it does have some bits of advice here and there. I think one of the big things we took away from combat was that is all about what you can spend and what you're willing to spend. Since as long as you can keep paying for it, you can keep doing certain actions as much as you want.
The system does also encourages you to try to use as much dice as you can within reason, because you get like top of the round you get your refresh, and then whenever it's your turn you then get another refresh.
Yep. The latter doesn't give you as much, but it is giving you stuff. So you don't benefit by playing defensive for long amounts of time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is in keeping with the games where you sit still for too long. You're not going to be sitting still for too long anyways. You're going to be dead. Like even in the original Armored Core, the game beat you over the head always be on the move. Even if you're in tank treads.
Yeah, yeah. Like the tank treads do make you move pretty slow, but you still gotta keep moving.
Still got to keep moving, and if you're using tank treads, you're doing that because you want to use the heavier equipment without being overweight.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, your best option is shoot first before they shoot back.
That is true.
Uh, but for the enemy now, after the enemy section, the last section covers a bunch of scenarios, which we'll skim through a bit, but my usual policy about covering scenarios is still in effect. I'm not big on doing that, simply because there's not a lot of times there's not a whole lot to dissect from the perspective of this show. But there are two. It opens up with that there are two main types of enemies: enemies with turns and mob enemies, each of which has similarities and differences. Active enemies, mob enemies / objects in page 111 should be read, which we already did. So, enemies with turns have an action order card, much like an ally unit or a wingman, and have a few characteristics. Each turn, enemies are dealt action order cards. Remember, this is where the playing card deck comes in. Equal to the number of PCs, keeping the fastest one unless an ace is dealt. These are publicly revealed. For each action order card dealt, they get a turn. They have a core and other parts when staggered. The fastest action order card they still have is discarded. There are two types of enemies: normal enemies stronger than mobs of the same level, and boss enemies that have a large data sheet and are comparable to friendly forces on their own. Which, for a game like this, building tier type enemies is a typical way to go. And then go into the difference between normal and boss type enemies. Normal enemies are stronger than mobs of the same level and have a turn schedule. Boss enemies are even stronger, have more data, and have enough combat power to battle 3 allied units of the same level. Which... And hello there, Wolfie. The fact that they say battle 3 allied units, that really reinforces the party preference that the game wants. You know, 3 ACs and 1 navigator. And yeah, it can be done with more or less. But I feel the whole game is really built around that kind of composition. They do have a guideline as far as enemy of try to keep the enemy's level within the PCs by upwards of +5. Enemies with levels of +6 or more may be too strong, while conversely, enemies with the opposite level may be uninteresting to fight. That's a decent baseline, I suppose.
It feels a little generic, but it's not. It's not too it's still helpful.
Yeah. Because of the depth of variety when it comes to building ACs, I think any sort of encounter advice is going to be some level of generic.
It does make, yeah.
But they also say limit regular enemies to 1 to 2 units. GMs include regular enemies in a scenario. For short sessions, it's recommended to have one or fewer regular enemies appear to keep playtime short. For long scenarios, it's recommended to have 2 or less regular enemies appear. Furthermore, when 2 regular enemies appear simultaneously, their combat power approaches that of a boss enemy of the same level. Therefore, it's advisable to set up a support supply procedure before such an encounter. Boss enemies, they believe are for long scenarios. Which they'll be a bit further on when it comes to the question of creating a map battle. And I do like that they make clear boss enemies are meant to be in situations where there are almost no other enemies on the battlefield besides the boss enemy. And in both cases, it's advisable to set up a support supply procedure before introducing, which is fair in a lot of the missions. I believe there was a supply set up just before the big encounter of that mission.
I'm trying to remember. I think most of the time there was until like the very end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Although, even with that, if we look at other FromSoft games, there's always that signpost of, this is where a really nasty encounter is on the other side. Make sure you're properly prepared. Sometimes it's a boss, but not always. Those whole step through the fog moments, where you go in, there's no going back.
I will say that does make more sense in like the from the Soulsborne genre, since it's more of an open world. While in AC6, it's all kind of just it's kind of more or less all on rails. Like it's still nice that they have those like resupply stations.
I look at that as a conscious response to some of those long missions where you were extremely starved of resources, especially in the tail end of some games in the PS2 era.
I remember in 4 where I think it was like where you had to go into the big land train to take it out. That one was really rough.
Pretty much. But then when we get to mob enemies, these are going to be your mooks, your MTs. They are not dealt action cards and instead carry out actions according to the event schedule set out. And they do have a few characteristics. Each round, the GM rolls a die equal to based on the event schedule and determines what order of actions by random draw. Generally, they don't move. Their order of actions is determined. That is hidden information. Turns always occur according to order of actions determined. Generally, they only have core parts. When staggered, the next fastest turn is cancelled. And if you're not using one of the prepared scenarios, you have to create a event schedule, which I believe is meant to be a soft AI for mobs. So with normals and bosses, you control them almost like a character. With mobs, they are semi-automatic. But then we have the data for boss entries. Image, name, nickname, the level. Remember the +5 rule that we mentioned before. The analysis target value. So if you're doing an analysis check on the target, that's the TN you have to beat. The system failure value. This is the TN for any system failure check. And we see one example of a boss enemy, one example of a normal, and one example of a mob. Uh, boss is the big old big old juggernaut.
I
Oh,
really enjoyed that boss.
mhm.
It was a little simple, but it was still a fun fight.
There's a part of me that wants to be an asshole and say that they should have used the helicopter as the boss enemy example here, just to give some people PTSD.
Uh, I see your argument, but at the same time, that'd be too obvious.
Probably. But then there's the defeat reward, i.e., how much you get, the amount you're going to get as a positive balance. And remember, your ammo is going to be is going to be as much of a cost as anything else when you finish the mission. So you could have a situation where you finish the mission and still are in the negative.
I mean, it's up to the players to not waste resources.
Hmm. Or it could really cut into it if you end up getting your ass kicked multiple times.
Hmm.
But then part for boss enemies, part determination, part name, and AP. Because remember, we still have localized damage. Uh, though that localized damage only seems to happen with normal enemies and boss enemies, not with mobs. Actually, I take it back. They still have AP. It's just they only have one section, the core. But then the defensive performance, uh, which works the same way as it does for PCs. Evasion counts, the number of evasions they can do in one turn. Uh, and the attack pattern. So enemies perform actions automatically without any input from the GM. This is a parameter that automatically determines enemy actions. These parameters represent the enemy's actions. Collectively are represented as attack patterns. At the start of battle, this is not public info, but when an enemy takes an action, the GM will reveal the information of that pattern. So it's basically they are always doing um, action 1, 2, 3, and repeat. Uh, and of course, they also have the action priority, name, range, subject, and like much like with a character's weapon. Uh, and let's see, then the number of hits, which is basically the action card that they would get determines the hit rate of that action, which is an interesting way to do damage variability without without having the GM roll dice.
Which is unique.
Hmm. But let me. But then we get into how to handle enemy actions. First, you decide whether action priority is A or B. Check the appropriate range, then execute the attack pattern, then the action ends. Ah. And I'd say the A and B is specifically in let me double check. It's whether or not the action card that they drew was an odd or an even card. Like in the example they give on the next page, the action card was a jack. Jacks are 11s, so it uses action priority A.
I forgot. This system uses a deck of playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is doing that for for turn order. And this is why stunning is a big damn deal, because if you stun an enemy, you get to burn their highest action card. Or potentially have it that they don't do an action at all if they only have one card.
Which is always satisfying to do.
Mm-hmm. So,
but it always sucks to receive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, obviously.
Yep. But when it comes to multiple AP lines for mob enemies, that's supposed to represent a whole group of that mob. Which would make sense. It's kind of like with swarm enemies. It'd be dumb if you have like a swarm of bees. It'd be kind of dumb to give stats to each individual bee in that swarm.
Yeah.
Man. I could have used a swarm of bees in high school.
Everybody could use a swarm of bees in high school.
No, we had mosquitoes instead.
So some would argue probably worse.
But with mob enemies, analysis target value, system impairment value, and defensive performance are not set. And number of evasions doesn't exist for mob enemies unless the GM wants to put them in, though it's not recommended. And at least in terms of their individuals, but they can be put in, and they do give examples of what analysis and system failure would look like based on level. Though it sounds like they don't recommend it because that's going to slow things down. You can do it if you want to, but it's on you if you do. Oh. But of course, when you have mob enemies, you instead of the soft AI that normal enemies have, they have a event schedule because they don't operate on cards. Instead, we have a sheet that covers the turn cards as well as a random per draw round. You're rolling one die for and seeing which column is going on with that. So what we end up having with that setup is within the event schedule, you'd place individual mobs in certain parts of the turn, and once that part of the turn schedule is reached, you'd roll d6 to see if one of them takes their action, if at all. So the GM does have so I think it's important to look at the cards like initiative slots more than anything else.
That makes sense.
But I do like that they have the trade-off of um. Normally, it would be you would think it would be higher value means a higher hit rate, but not always. In fact, some of the enemy stat sheets we see here have a much better hit rate at lower cards. In fact, I'd say a good chunk of them, the hit rate goes up the lower the initiative is. Almost like if you want to act late, if you want to have them act later, then um they're doing more damage as a trade-off for them waiting. Of course,
Makes sense.
what we have here are just with normal enemies. With mobs, you're picking when they're acting based on that D6 roll. But of course, plenty of ACs as opponents. Um, I do like that instead of writing out all the actions as just 1, 2, 3 from top to bottom, there's some variation depending on priority. And it might seem restrictive, but much like in a FromSoft game, recognizing enemy patterns is a big deal, and I think this is their way of trying to replicate that. No, a lot of the time in encounters in a Soulsborne, and to a certain extent in AC6, a big deal is placed on recognizing their patterns to try and work around that. And like I said, it's an interesting way to have a setup for that kind of variety. Uh, and if one wants to do the ranker wants to do the arena ranks, they give that as well. Because going through the arena is as strong of a tradition as anything else.
I did feel that the arena in AC6 felt a little weak, but like it was still nice that it was there.
Hmm. But then we get the bosses, and of course the first one they bring up is the helicopter. So I got my wish.
Yeah.
And they have
I never. Sorry.
They have two versions of it. One at level 10 and one at level 30. Sorry, you were saying?
I never really had a problem with the helicopter in the game. I had a problem with the other filter.
Mm-hmm. I think I know which one you're talking about. I had to make the joke because there were so many people bitching about how they felt the helicopter was impossible. And it was
I thought I thought the helicopter was fine.
Mhm.
Kill issue.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have and it still is using the same action priority and part determination. It just has two versions of it. Uh, so if you want to do two phases of the boss fight, you could. Then the Strider, or the eyeball battery, which is level 10. Oh, then the Juggernaut, which is also level 10. All of those guns, and it's gonna be going up against starter ACs.
I mean, it's probably still pretty slow.
Yeah. Well, it has 0 evasions.
Yep.
It's most of its parts have defensive performance of 10, except for the torso, which has defensive performance of 20 across the board. The
That
other
makes
parts
sense.
don't have explosive protection, just bullet and energy.
So just bombard it with missiles if you have a good idea. That's your GM is gonna make you fight the Juggernaut.
Also, the torso has 100 AP on 3 lines. All the other ones only have 1 line.
Balances it out a little bit.
And there's also the rule of when damage is dealt, move to a random adjacent area. So it is going to be mobile. It's just going to be really, really, really damn slow. But see, then we have Balteus, which is level 20.
The filter.
Yep, this is the proper filter.
It wasn't a hard fight. It's just when you first fight it, you don't have that good of gear. Because when I fought it again, second playthrough, I just murdered it.
I liken it to a difficulty spike.
Mm-hmm.
The way I've called say Whitney, the second gym leader in Pokemon Gen 2, a difficulty spike is, yeah, if you know you're dealing with her next, she's not that hard to deal with. Going up against her the first time,
Miltank, though.
yes. I mean, yeah, she also has a Clefairy, but who cares?
Yeah, it's that. It's the cow. The cow has always been the issue.
The cow is the issue, and especially rollout, where all of a sudden, late into that fight, you have something that can just keep one-shotting you.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, older gens of Pokemon were perfectly balanced with no exploits whatsoever.
It sounds like you're talking about a Bethesda game.
I've had people try and tell me Gen 1 was actually balanced, and then be
They had
surprised
no
when I
idea what they were
laugh.
doing in Gen 1. They had no idea. Let's be honest. It took them to like
Laughs in
Gen 3
psychic
or 4
Pokemon.
for them to actually be like, okay, we have an idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
Laughs in psychic Pokemon.
I still think there's a special place in hell for whoever insisted on filling every cave with Zubats.
I mean, it's a cave. What else are you gonna put in there?
Anything
Yeah,
else?
dude.
Maybe some rock types?
Geodude.
I mean, Geodude does spawn. Not very often.
You trip over more rocks than you run into bats. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. But let's see when. Then we have the Smart Cleaner, which has a variant for level 20 and 50.
I remember this one being a little awkward to fight.
Yeah, I could see it. And I know that there's the circle number for some of these. That isn't for dice. That is for the special notes.
Okay.
So, for example, with the the special note for AP with the smart cleaner is if one or more lines of AP are lost from any part of this enemy, if stagger state occurs at least once, then every turn with an action order of 15 plus, perform Incinerator for the area of this action order. Draw a new action order card and refer to its suit only. And remember, 15 plus, that would basically be kings. Actually, no. I take that back. It just means that it's just doing incinerator. Uh, then we have the spider, which is at level 20.
I do like the spiders, like the art style for the spider.
Mm-hmm. Now, just it's not a quadruped because it's got I think it was 5 or 6 legs.
It looks like 6 legs.
Yeah. So a hexruped.
So it's a hexaped.
Yep. Then we have the AAS03. With the energy pile equipped. And its main note is until the end of the round, all enemies named it except for yourself get +1 hit on their attacks. This effect does not stack. If the action has already been performed, or if there are no enemies that can increase the number of hits, the next priority action will be executed. You know, because the energy pile is a melee weapon. But then we have the normal version of it without the energy pile. Then the cataphract, which the cataphract seems like something that would be in the Troa Barton School of Combat.
I did enjoy that fight.
It looks like a bunch of orcs made this. Look at all the DACA.
It's still a mech because there's a little guy there in the front with legs. Do those legs do anything? No.
Ah, yeah. If I squint, I can see them.
Mm-hmm. Which the thing has a Gatling grenade, a double Gatling cannon, multiple surface suppression missiles, variable laser cannons, and rushing. But I will never get over the idea of a Gatling grenade.
Look, Monk. Sometimes a machine gun isn't enough. Sometimes a Gatling gun isn't enough. Sometimes you just gotta take a bunch of grenades and be shot out of a gun at ludicrous speed.
It sounds
So
like
the grenades are plaid.
they've gone to plaid.
Man, I hope that second movie's gonna be good.
Let's see. Then we have the Enforcer, which is level 40. Then we have the Ibis series, also at level 40. Let's see. Then the Air at level 50. I do appreciate that with most of the boss enemies, they're only ever doing 3 actions no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things they have as actions are situational. Then we have the Archibus Balteus, also known as
Nail.
Mm-hmm. But See, then Handler Walter, which is level 50. And of course, how could we forget All Mind?
First form.
Mm-hmm.
That like the All Mine fight was a really good fight. I don't want to. Well, we're going to be spoiling the fight regardless here, but like it was a really good fight. The second form felt a little cheap, but
Playing devil's advocate, cheap-ass final bosses is something of an Armored Core tradition.
yeah.
Uh, Going all the way back to the infinite 9 balls, or the
Come on, Monk. That was perfectly balanced.
When he
I-
first appears, he appears with 2 All Mind Alphas.
Yeah.
I just find that amusing.
Mhm.
Sorry, you were saying?
But of course, the other big tradition is a lengthy final mission that sometimes involves platforming in a game that is not built for platforming.
There was platforming, but the platforming didn't feel that terrible. It wasn't great, but it still wasn't like the worst in the series.
No, there's, I think, 2 and 3 would be higher up on that list.
We can't count 4 because you're always flying.
Mm-hmm. I can't count 4 answer because you're always flying.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 had other problems.
5 is the reason FromSoft does not want to make another co-op AC game.
Even though Verdict Day was good, it's just the damage was done.
Yeah, you can't. It's like you can't go and try to put the cat back in the bag.
Mm-hmm. Though I still don't consider. When I did that when I did that tier maker series on Armored Cores, I, as always, had the rule of all scores relative to their generation. If you were to ask me the worst of the PS3 and 360 generation, that would go to 5. I know some people would put it as 4, but no, 4 is not bad enough, and I didn't have to do an obnoxious scan mode all the time.
I love how for 5 it's a sequel to the 4 series, but to understand that you'd have to like go into like V-Day at the very end, and it's like, oh, it is connected.
Mm-hmm. I think it's because it was such a shock to the system to go from IM speed to ludicrously
Really slow.
Mm-hmm. Almost Vonzer level slow. Which, don't get me wrong, I like front mission, but it was a bit of a leap.
I mean, it made having reverse jointed legs feel more of a choice.
Mm-hmm. But you know, if you ask me the worst of the PS2 generation, Nexus.
Yeah.
I've seen some say 3. Once again, I don't. The whole option thing that 3 tried was a cute gimmick, but it's not. It's a case of not being bad enough. Like, in order for me to be the worst, I have to come up with at least a couple positives instead of a couple caveats. And I understand what Nexus was trying to do. It's just it didn't work.
They
But-
tried.
But then we do have a a set of rules for the arena. Uh, a arena session is meant to take about 20 to 30 minutes. If you want to faithfully recreate the original, you can only participate in the arena after completing scenario 9. If not, you can do it whenever you want. You can do this once between scenarios. You cannot challenge a ranked AC once you've defeated them. And the steps are: prepare for deployment, check your participation rights and rank your AC, determine battlefield events as an optional thing, begin the fight, then end the fight.
It feels like there's some fiddly bits between steps 4 and 5, but I'm not exactly too sure what they would be.
Mm-mm.
Oh, right. Fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
I mean, I mean, an armored core, you're gonna be fighting another pilot? That's unheard of. That doesn't happen. We settle our differences with hugs and kisses, right?
Oh,
What do you think this is? Virtual On?
For Animal Crossing?
Oh, no. Animal Crossing is freaking brutal. I mean, have you seen Isabel's husband?
Wait, she's married?
Yes. To Doom Guy.
Oh, for a moment it's like, oh wait, like, I didn't know she was canonly married. Not the meme of like both that Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal coming out on the same day.
mm-hmm. Which
I love that meme.
I love that because you would think everybody involved would be biting each other about which is the better game, but no. Instead, we're going to mix the two, even though it makes absolutely no sense, and make it work.
It's fine. Oh yeah, speaking of relationships, have you heard that like Sonic is in a canonical relationship with Hatsuki Miku?
If you listen close, you can hear Amy crying in the distance. Good.
And somewhere in the far off corner, Princess Sally Acorn is also crying.
Who? Oh yeah, from the Archie
Exactly.
comics.
Yeah. But there is the option of having some battlefield events. Namely, if you want to throw some kind of environmental hazard like a sandstorm or a coral explosion. But they do note that there is a time limit for arena battles. You have to beat them in 3 rounds. If you beat
What does that mean? Like, actually, like, knock them out in 3 rounds? Be the one that has the most health in 3 rounds?
Well,
Yes, how do you defeat them?
mm-hmm. So, let's see.
Well, here we go. Conditions for winning.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of your allied units is destroyed, or there are no more ranked ACs that can challenge you at your current unit level. Oh. No, that's how you win the arena, but... Huh. I guess it's just like a normal fight, where you just kind of, like, completely destroy them, but how would you do that in, like, 1 to 3 rounds? Unless there's just, like, a bunch of mooks.
Hold on, there is a variant rule for arena knockout.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it is just like whoever has the most health by the end of 3 rounds.
Yeah, of course, since it talks about being able to defeat it in less. Remember the way the action economy works in this setup.
True.
Which, and there's also the fact that I don't think arenas are supposed to be a team fight. Much like in the video game proper, it's supposed to be one-on-one. So it being a 3-round limit makes some sense. But given the way damage works and the way AP columns work, let's like, are you supposed?
I'm
are you
still
supposed
confused.
um.
I feel like we may be, yeah, I feel like we may be skipping over something for the arena.
I mean, we are kind of like speeding a bit through it.
So let me see. Let me see, because when I think of defeating, I'm thinking taking out the core. But because of the way combat works, you can't always hit the core.
Mm.
But let's. And Battlefield uses the.
Like, I understand it's virtual combat. My question is, how does it work?
Like, as far as setting up the map, it would be set up the way a boss battle would. In turn.
Like, it looks like it can be a group fight, because, you know, it is a boss battle.
Yep.
Because if any ally is defeated, then that's the end of it. Nobody's
Okay.
allowed to be defeated.
Alright.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, it's multiple. Because
Okay.
on step 4,
Mm-hmm.
at the start of each turn in the arena, all allies and wingmen, not just the enemies, can be arranged in their existing areas.
Yeah, it's
It's a little confusing. Like, it feels like they are missing something here.
yeah, because when it comes to the whole defeating a ranked AC, I think that I think that the idea that is here, I think is sound. It's just that the time limit thing, I think, was a little undercooked.
It kind of felt like they added the arena in because it's an ACTT RPG, not because they were actually planning on actually adding like the arena in a way.
Yeah, and I think that, like, if I wanted to just be straightforward, if I wanted to be just straightforward with it, and I was running the arena thing, I'd probably say the only thing that's a viable target is core.
I guess.
But actually, let me. Especially since let me go up to the. Actually, never mind, because when it came to the enemies you'd fight in the arena, they're operating under the normal rules,
Yeah.
normal type
It's
enemies.
Yeah. Is this supposed to be
What
like a
counts as the
3v3?
ranked AC? Is it just a boss?
No, bosses are the tier above that. There's mobs, normals, and bosses. Normals are are a bit truncated compared to bosses, but they do have the whole localized damage the way bosses do as well, and PCs do.
Okay. So the normals are the ranked ones?
Yes, there are no ranked bosses.
Got it. That seems a little more doable, but geez.
Hmm. But I think an easy switch is just after 3 rounds have passed, whoever has the um, whoever's taken the least amount of damage ends up winning.
So long as none of your allies have been defeated or you haven't defeated like the other person. Yeah.
Hmm. But then there's the GM section, which mainly concerns handling sample scenarios and giving advice on that. Uh, as well as a few other things like the event rules, or the bo- or you have an optional boss battle table if you're not using the map.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which is essentially using a simplified map with just 4 squares, each represented with a suit. But there's also the idea of artillery sometimes showing up in in these systems, which they do give a sample range setup for artillery, and what you can and can't hit, as well as what counts as a hit, what counts as a effective hit against a artillery shield. And after that, they go into the different scenarios within the campaign. Uh, but that more or less covers it. Although I do like that each of the scenarios is only a few pages each, so you could easily run an individual scenario as a one-shot. And a lot of them are built on ones from the video game, as one would expect.
I think it's nearly all of them. Bless you.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah, it is nearly all of them.
And the scenarios end at the worm.
Mm-hmm.
The worm, right?
Yeah, it looks like for a core book like this, there's quite a few scenarios, but
It gives you a good idea. Actually, no, I think it goes further. It gives you a good idea of like how you can make your own scenarios in the system. So I do like that is nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
I do like examples to work off of.
Yeah,
And
and
they
there are a total
definitely give you plenty.
of 26 scenarios. As well as advice on creating your own scenario, guidelines on unit level and difficulty, as well as enemies appearing in map battles. And some scenario ideas based on factions you might play, like whether you're playing as a mercenary, whether you're an independent mercenary, whether you're playing as a member of Red Guns or Vespers. And some NPCs you might interact with, as well as the Rubicon Liberation Front, and even doing scenario ideas of before the Fires of Ibis, as well as a original scenario made by the writers that isn't in the video game. We got 2 of them. It looks like. And then
I don't remember. Oh yeah, those are like right before the main Carl explosion.
Yep. And after that are a collection of sheets. The first one is a blank sheet just for any old armored core. And then the second page, I think, is meant to be the skill sheet based on what type of legs you have, which we did cover that. Obviously, you're not expected to have all of these skills at once, but these are the skills you'd have for that type of leg.
It is nice that instead of having it be a field that you fill in yourself, it's just like a checkbox.
Yeah. Kind of like the playbooks you'd see in Powered by the Apocalypse, but not quite. We also have a sheet for the operator and their specific skills. The ones that they start out with and the ones that they will get based on leveling. Then a sheet for expense report.
That I feel like a part of this like triggers my Mechaton player into me. It's like, ooh, gotta maximize the spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. Then a map battle sheet, as well as a boss battle and hit rate sheet. The hit rate is just as a means of referencing what damage is going to be like for the different types of hit rate. And some paper figures you could print out if you don't have minis, or if you're playing, which there aren't a whole lot of minis for Armored Core. There's just full on figures. And a very nice index we have that separates skills, enemies, and there was already an index specifically for parts in the garage section. And finally, this is something you see a lot in Japanese tabletop, a designer's notebook of going into what certain plans were.
This is nice. I kind of wish more RPGs in the West would do this. Like they're able to go like kind of peek inside the designer's mind and see how they intended things to go to be implemented.
Yep. And then the staff list, and I see Kei Kitazawa was involved in this. It was also pointed out to me that this game was done by the same guy who did Dark Blaze, which we covered last week.
Oh, Dark Blaze?
Huh.
Yep. Which I suppose I can see some similar DNA. But that more or less covers the Armored Core 6 TRPG. So, overall, what did you guys think of it as a whole?
I'll let you go first.
I will say, whenever I first went through the book, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed in it until as I kept thinking about it the past couple of weeks. It's like it kind of got my head around what they were trying to do. They were trying to emulate the first trailer a little bit in a TTRPG format, which I understand it now. And then it's like, hey, you can't have you're not going to be able to you won't be able to easily do the granular combat in something like Mechaton or other RPGs. So the hand waviness of the system and its combat map did grow on me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sort of granularness that you might see in Mechton is not something I see as much in Japanese tabletop from what little I've been able to get. And truth be told, I think that granularness might actually would have been a detriment if they tried to replicate wholesale from the video games.
Yeah.
But now I could go into some parts of the presentation because of how small some of the text is in some places. The only reason I'm not doing that is because this was a one-man job, and it's a damn miracle it even got this far.
Yeah, it's a one-man job of somebody doing their best to not edit the book any more than what they have to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised the dude didn't put their own afterward.
That's because they didn't need to, because they put in a foreword at the front of the book.
Oh, you're right. But I will say, even though I honestly know next to nothing about Armored Core, aside from the fact that giant robots exist, this is a very interesting system that I would like to play around with. And it does get me interested in wanting to try the games, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I just never had the time and sometimes not the money. But overall, I like it. It intrigues me enough to want to play it. It definitely gets me interested in the IP itself. It does everything that it wants to do. And again, major shout out to the guy who translated this. He's a mad lad.
Mm-hmm. So, on my end, this game is a lot easier than it could have been. Like, this kind of game had the potential to be something as crunchy and spreadsheet heavy as some of the early editions of MechWarrior or Mechton. Especially if you have Plus, which I think is almost a necessity. Don't get me wrong, I like Mechton, but I will not deny it has a bit of a skill floor.
Yeah, needing an actual spreadsheet to make your mech is a bit of a pain, and normally in most RPGs, building the character is the most time-consuming part. While in Mechaton, it's like, hey, building the character is pretty straightforward. It's the mech you're building is gonna take forever.
Mm-hmm. So, I have a kind of pendulum or rather a scale when it comes to mech RPGs in terms of complexity.
Mhm.
At the high end, of course, is going to be stuff like Mechton, because of all the sheer amount of stuff you can do with it. In the middle is Battle Century G, and at the low end is Beam Saber. All three good games, differing levels of complexity, thus differing audiences. Um, and I know somebody would go, well, what about Lancer? The big reason that I've always been hesitant on recommending Lancer to mech fans is it is very much married to its setting. And is it possible that you could run Gundam or Macross in Lancer? Technically, yes. Practically speaking, you're going to be doing a bunch of house ruling to the point where you're basically making a whole new game.
Which sometimes it can be worth it.
Mm-mm. I mean, there was that whole Gundam Senki thing with Mechton.
Mm-hmm.
And although truth be told, if someone wants to do Macross, I'd be more willing to just point them towards the SMG Macross RPG. Yes, it has the Robotech name, but but I think you're going to be able to do the whole Veritex without having too much in the way of headaches. Because imagine doing the Veritex in Mechton and setting out all three forms.
No. 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 And you know, and you will know, Monk, you know Mechaton. Like, you know, in any of those transforming vehicles, like, they're not as good as just making a dedicated vehicle with those points. And of course, nothing pales in everything pales compared to you just building a tank.
Yeah. And now it's a little bit easier in something like Battle Century G, but that's because BCG is a lighter affair. I remember now. I remember. I remember CJ saying that there was a lack of role-playing mechanics, which role-playing mechanics as a term has become one of my whipping boys because it doesn't actually tell me anything.
See, it's a bunch of dudes who work at cars, but also roll D&D dice.
I see what you did there. I've only skimmed through Battle Century G a couple of times. But I can kind of see when people make that argument. They want
not about Battle Century G, about Armored Core 6 here. There was an argument that it doesn't have role-playing mechanics, which
it's Armored Core.
This is a game that is dedicated to being as close to Armored Core 6 as you can in tabletop form.
Like if you really want to have like role play elements as just pilots, you can just use like shoehorn in another system. I know a friend of mine tapped my shoulder asking if I want to play Lancer with him, but anytime we would do off-foot stuff, we'd just use the Stars Without Number system, like on-foot pilot stuff.
And whenever it comes to that, and this is something I've seen. That idea of role-play mechanics is not something I see a lot in Japanese tabletop. The focus is on what instead of shoehorning in mechanics that are only going to be used situationally, that energy is more spent on places where it is going to get used. Plus, the big reason I keep picking on the phrase role-playing mechanics is that it doesn't convey any actual information. Like, it doesn't tell me.
Like, you don't need mechanics to roleplay.
And if the argument is, well, what if I want this? What if I want to see the odds of trying to hack something or trying to move over a thing. Um, you don't need those.
No, you don't.
They are, and I look at it. I look at it more as as not doing what the Romans do when you're in a certain game. Um, and trying to force a game into doing something that it was never intended to do or designed for.
Hmm.
If you're playing Armored Core, you're playing with the idea of you are mercenaries working on Rubicon and dealing with the complicated situation that Rubicon is in. I don't say it'd be about as ridiculous as trying to do a social mechanic system in um Mech Warrior, when one of the big premises of Mech Warrior is you're managing a mercenary company. Uh,
I I could see where it would be nice if, like, hypothetically, if you run a campaign where instead of being a mercenary company, you're working for one of the houses or some sort of noble.
but the the point is that I know some people fly the flag for simulation style play, but that sort of heavy simulation um, is not should not be the be all end all way to engage with the mechanics of an RPG.
Mhm.
Uh, and that's especially the case where the wargaming scene never really got a foothold. Like, I think something a lot of people forget is when it comes to these scenes in like Japan, a lot of people who got into tabletop in Japan from my own research and talking with other people was through computer gaming. And magazines like Comptique were somewhat a bridge between the two. Um, and the Lodos Companion that we covered a few months ago was built as a way to get people who had only played the Lodos PC game to try TTRPGs.
Hmm.
I'd say the similar thing happened with Wizardry, which is why when people say, "Oh, this feels too video gamey," that doesn't tell me anything or mean anything. Um, and when it comes to the AC6 TRPG,
Hmm.
I know it'd be tempting to say, "Oh, you could have done a stat sheet for the pilot." I'm like, what would that add? Except complicate everything.
Yeah, and there's a reason why even in Lancer there's no pilot sheet. Like the main gimmick of AC6 is the fact it's like, hey, we're all in these big stompy robots, except for the handler.
And given the fact that AC clearly wants you to have different mechs assembled, almost a roster setup. Um, Adding a pilot to that would create more problems than it solves. Like, the video games want you to tailor your build for ACs based on the missions you're taking, and we have a similar thing here. So it would be a case of, yeah, you could add that kind of thing, but what would it really add to the experience, or would it just be busy work to have it. And that kind of busy work to have it thing, I'd like to think we got out of that particular trap back in the 90s.
You'd think.
But I guess some people still want to have that just for the sake of tradition.
Or or words. Or just some people would want to actually keep track of like how many arrows they have left in their quiver and stuff like that.
Which that sort of thing is fine. But if you're trying to be a bit more universal about things, it's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say, as far as how I'd grade Armored Core 6, I would go with recommended.
Mm-hmm.
The skill floor isn't as bad as say Mechton, but the skill floor is there. And I think some people are going to have a harder time getting used to the fact that you don't roll for attacks or actions. You roll for your action economy.
Mm-hmm.
I also think this is a game that might be tricky to pull off on virtual tabletops. I think it will be ridiculously easy to pull off in person.
Yeah. Maybe
Mm.
maybe tabletop simulator if you have it on there. That wouldn't be so hard, but
Roll20 or Foundry, that might be tricky.
It's not tricky.
Depends.
It's not. I won't go so far as say it's tricky. It's just both those VTTs expect you to be playing a very specific type of RPG that AC6 is not.
Yeah. And one of the big lies that people tell regarding TTRPGs is you can run anything in a given game.
If you can run anything in a given game, then either like the system doesn't have enough of its own personality to make people want to try it, or the system is so crunchy that people don't want to try it because they don't want to be reading a manual for a radio.
What was that system again? GURPS?
GURPS.
Yep.
GURPS.
And yeah, GURPS and Hero and similar universal style games are an option, but that's a conscious choice. But
It's a wrong choice, but it's a conscious choice.
And I am well aware that some will claim, oh, GURPS is not that bad. It's like, if you have to tell me it's not that bad, then you've already lost. It's like, you realize I have eyes. But
Yeah.
I have eyes too.
But with that said, that will wrap it up for this particular season. When we come back here next Thursday, it will be double feature night. And let me. So, I need to put in the next two for that. And the next season for the Valley of the Judged on Thursdays is going to be a game that I've talked about a couple times and did a previous Valley over the starter set. We're going to be covering Shadow Scar.
Let's go!
So that'll happen in
haven't heard of
about
that
2
one.
weeks. Shadow Scar is Cody Pondsmith's project involving yokai and interdimensional ninja.
Okay.
And well, I had joked that weebness runs in the Pondsmith family.
You think?
But it is a interesting beast that we will get into in 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Goodbye.